Earth in 2187 was not the dominant force in the galaxy. Far from it. When humans finally cracked the light barrier 70 years prior and ventured beyond their solar system, they discovered a cosmos teeming with life and ancient civilizations. The galactic community had been watching Earth for centuries, monitoring the primitive species that had only recently stopped killing each other long enough to reach for the stars. They're barely out of their cradle. Ambassador Xalvor of the Vesperi Collective had remarked during humanity's formal introduction to the Galactic Conclave. Quaint creatures, determined but ultimately insignificant. The Vesperi, with their crystalline exoskeletons and minds capable of processing information at speeds that made quantum computers look like abacuses, had dominated galactic politics for millennia. They tolerated humanity the way one tolerates a child at the adult's table, with thinly veiled amusement and condescension. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of Orbital Station Artemis, watching the Vesperi diplomatic vessel depart Earth's atmosphere. The sleek, obsidian craft reflected no light, seeming to swallow it instead, much like the Vesperi themselves, who consumed knowledge, resources, and the dignity of lesser species with equal veracity. "They denied our petition again," Admiral Chen said, joining her at the window. "Fourth time this cycle." Elena didn't turn. "They still think we're playing with toys." Earth had requested full membership in the Conclave's Defense Alliance for years. Each time, the petition was reviewed, debated, and summarily dismissed. Humans were too young, too untested. Their technology was deemed primitive, their military strategies unsophisticated. Earth could maintain observer status and continue contributing resources to the Alliance, but decision-making power remained firmly out of reach. "Let them think what they want," Elena said finally. "It works in our favor." Chen's implant pinged, and his eyes briefly unfocused as he processed the incoming data. Speaking of which, Ghost Fleet just completed their training exercise in the Kuiper Belt. All objectives achieved with 0 detection signatures. Elena nodded. "And Project Thunderbolt? Final testing phase. The engineers say they've solved the heat dispersion issue." A smile crept across Elena's face. "The first in days. Then we're ready." The Ghost Fleet was Earth's best-kept secret. While officially maintaining a modest defense force of conventional ships that the Vesperi and other species could monitor and dismiss, humanity had been building something else entirely in the shadows of distant asteroids and hidden lunar facilities. 3 days later, Elena stood before the United Earth Defense Council, the holoprojection of the frontier colony Proxima Centauri III, rotating slowly above the center of the table. "The settlement went dark 17 hours ago," she reported. "All communication stopped mid-transmission. The colonial governor was describing an unidentified object in orbit when the feed cut." Councillor Diaz, representing South America, leaned forward. "The third disappearance this month. Just like Tau Ceti and Epsilon Eridani. The Conclave is calling these incidents technical failures or operator error." Councillor O'Keefe added. "Their investigation teams find nothing because they arrived days later." Elena activated another hologram, this one showing a dark, elongated ship with bioorganic protrusions. This was captured by a mining drone near Tau Ceti before that colony went silent. The drone managed to transmit this image before it too went dark. The room fell silent. "The Krell," Councillor Wong whispered. The Krell were spoken of in hushed tones throughout the galaxy, a predatory species that appeared without warning, harvested everything of value, and disappeared. Most advanced civilizations had defenses against them, and the Galactic Conclave maintained that the Krell threat was managed. The Conclave insists the Krell haven't been active in this sector for centuries. Elena continued, "But our data suggests otherwise. We believe they're testing defenses, probing for weaknesses, particularly around newly established colonies with minimal protection. Like human settlements," Diaz concluded. "And not just ours," Elena added, bringing up another hologram showing a star map with red indicators blinking across several sectors. The Navari, the Druzen, the Elkari, all newcomers to the galactic stage like us, all experiencing technical failures and disappearances. Admiral Chen stepped forward. The Vesperi and other dominant species are protected by automated defense networks and powerful fleets. We believe the Krell are targeting those of us deemed expendable. Or perhaps, Counselor O'Keefe suggested quietly, we're being used as a buffer, sacrificial outposts. The implication hung heavy in the air. Were humans and other newer species being deliberately positioned as early warning systems, canaries in the cosmic coal mine? What do you propose, Commander Reyes? Asked Counselor Wong. Elena looked each council member in the eye before answering. Deploy the Ghost Fleet, not just to our colonies, but to those of the Navari and others being targeted. If I'm right, the Krell are planning something bigger than isolated attacks. The Conclave has explicitly forbidden military cooperation outside their protocols. Diaz warned, if we reveal our true capabilities and act unilaterally. With respect, Counselor, Elena interrupted, we've spent 15 years being patted on the head and told to stay in our corner of the galaxy. Meanwhile, our people are vanishing, and the Conclave offers condolences instead of action. The council chambers fell silent again, broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems. How soon can your fleet deploy? Wong asked finally. 12 hours. We've been ready for months. The vote was unanimous. 2 days later, Elena sat in a sterile conference room at Conclave Central Station, an artificial habitat orbiting a neutron star that served as the diplomatic heart of galactic governance. Across from Earth, 3 Vesperi diplomats regarded her with expressions that might have been pity if their crystalline features were capable of such emotion. Commander Reyes, the central figure said, voice translated into a metallic approximation of human speech. We appreciate Earth's concerns regarding these incidents. However, deploying additional forces to the frontier regions would be an overreaction and potentially destabilizing. Elena kept her face neutral. 3 human colonies have gone silent in the past month alone. Over 7,000 civilians unaccounted for. Tragic, the Vesperi acknowledged with a flicker of its crystalline appendages, their equivalent of a dismissive wave, but not unprecedented for new colonial efforts. Space is dangerous. Systems fail. Humans are still learning these harsh lessons. And the Navari, the Druzen, their colonies suffering the same fate. The Vesperi exchanged glances. Coincidence, or perhaps inadequate preparation. The Conclave offers training and advisory services for frontier defense. Elena leaned forward. We've requested those services 4 times. And when your species demonstrates readiness to properly implement our guidance, they shall be granted, the Vesperi replied smoothly. Until then, we recommend focusing on securing your existing settlements rather than expanding further. You're asking us to retreat. We're suggesting prudence. Your kind rushes forward without proper consideration of consequences. It is endearing, but ultimately self-destructive. Elena stood, straightening her uniform. Thank you for your time, ambassadors. As she turned to leave, the lead Vesperi added, we understand your military vessels have altered their patrol patterns. While Earth's defense forces are charming in their enthusiasm, they would be wise not to interfere in matters beyond their comprehension. Elena paused at the door. I'll relay your concerns to Earth Command. What she didn't say was that the altered patrol patterns were merely decoys, conventional ships moving predictably, visibly, exactly as expected of a naive species playing at galactic politics. Meanwhile, the Ghost Fleet was already in position, cloaked in technologies the Vesperi had never bothered to look for in humans. 12 hours later, Elena stood on the bridge of the EFS Shadow Strike, flagship of the Ghost Fleet. Unlike the bulky, utilitarian vessels that made up Earth's public-facing navy, the Shadow Strike was all sleek efficiency, a predator designed not for show, but for lethal effectiveness. Status report, she ordered. Captain Marquez, her second-in-command, brought up a holographic display. All 20 ships in position. 8 around our colonies, 4 with the Navari, 4 with the Druzen, and 4 with the Elkari, all running silent, all undetected. And the decoy fleet, exactly where the Vesperi expect them to be, making lots of noise and looking very earnest. Elena allowed herself a small smile. For 15 years, humanity had played the part assigned to them. Eager students, technologically inferior, militarily naive, all while pouring resources into the ghost fleet and technologies that leapfrogged conventional development paths. Earth hadn't tried to match the Vesperi in their areas of superiority. Instead, they'd identified blind spots, technological roads not taken by the ancient civilizations who had settled into comfortable patterns of innovation. "New contact," announced the sensor officer suddenly, emerging from slit space near Proxima Centauri. The main display shifted to show a massive vessel, its surface an unsettling pattern of organic and mechanical components. Behind it, 5 smaller ships in formation. "Krell Harvester," Marcus whispered, just like the records described. Elena studied the display and the Proxima defense station. "Already gone, Commander. No response on any channel." Elena took a deep breath. Humanity had prepared for this moment for over a decade, watching, learning, developing in secret. The Vesperi and their allies had laughed at humans' primitive attempts at joining galactic society, never realizing that being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Operation First Light begins now." Throughout the Proxima system, invisible ships stirred to life. In systems across the frontier, the same scene repeated as the Ghost Fleet revealed its true purpose. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as an afterthought. They were about to learn their mistake. The Krell Harvester ship loomed over Proxima Centauri II, its massive silhouette blotting out the stars. Grotesque collection tendrils had already begun descending toward the colony below, probing, searching for resources, biological and otherwise. The smaller Krell vessels maintained formation, their sensors sweeping the system for threats but finding nothing. Nothing visible, at least. Aboard the EFS Shadow Strike, Commander Elena Reyes watched the tactical display with cold focus. "All ships confirmed firing solutions." "Confirmed," Captain Marcus replied. "Ghost Fleet elements reporting ready across all targeted systems." Elena allowed herself one moment of reflection. Humanity had spent generations believing they were alone in the universe. When they discovered otherwise, they found themselves at the bottom of an ancient hierarchy, dismissed and marginalized. Today, that changed. Execute Operation First Light. Across the Proxima system, 8 ships of the Ghost Fleet simultaneously disengaged their quantum displacement fields, not merely cloaking devices, but technology that shifted the vessels partially out of phase with normal spacetime. As they fully re-entered regular space, they fired. The Thunderbolt system was another of humanity's secret developments, not the crude directed energy weapons that most species utilized, but gravity-focused singularity projectiles that bypassed conventional shields by temporarily warping space itself. The first barrage struck the unprotected Krell ships with devastating precision. 3 of the smaller vessels imploded instantly, crushed by forces they had no defense against. The Harvester ship shuddered, its organic components pulsing with what might have been pain as massive breaches opened across its hull. "Direct hits confirmed," Tactical Officer Lynn reported, her voice steady despite the history-making moment. "Harvester ship is venting atmosphere but maintaining structural integrity. Remaining escort vessels are moving to defensive positions. They're transmitting," communications reported. "Unknown encoding, but signal strength suggests it's a distress call." Elena nodded. "As expected. Status on the other systems." The tactical display expanded to show 4 other star systems where similar scenes were unfolding. Near the Navari homeworld, Ghost Fleet vessels had engaged another Krell battle group. In orbit around the Druzen colony of Veshtar, Human ships fought alongside hastily deployed Drusen defenders against Krell forces that had been caught mid-harvest. Elkari defense forces have joined our ships at Tal Shira, Marcus reported. The Krell group there is already retreating. Elena's eyes narrowed. They're not retreating. They're regrouping. The Krell operate as a hive. These weren't isolated raids, but coordinated attacks. We've surprised them, but they'll adapt quickly. As if confirming her assessment, the tactical display shifted as new signatures appeared at the edge of the Proxima system. Slip space ruptures, Lynn announced. 7 new Krell vessels entering the system, larger class than the previous group. Elena studied the new arrivals. The Krell expected minimal resistance. We've disrupted their operational patterns, but now they'll commit more resources. She opened a channel to the entire Ghost Fleet. All vessels, this is Commander Reyes. Phase 2 begins now. Execute jump sequence Alpha and prepare for simultaneous strike. Across 5 star systems, the human vessels vanish, their quantum displacement drives not just hiding them, but shifting them through space to new predetermined coordinates. When they reappeared seconds later, they had completely reshuffled their distribution, now concentrating forces against the largest Krell threats while maintaining protective positions near vulnerable colonies. The Krell, accustomed to straightforward combat against conventional forces, found themselves fighting an enemy that disappeared and reappeared at will, struck from impossible angles, and utilized weapons that bypassed their defenses. For perhaps the first time in their long history of predation, the Krell were experiencing confusion. Incoming transmission. Communications announced with surprise. From the Vesperi Conclave. The crystalline face of Ambassador Xalvor appeared on the command screen, features arranged in what Elena had learned to recognize as agitation. Commander Reyes, the Vesperi's translated voice crackled. Explain the meaning of this unauthorized military action. Elena didn't pause her tactical oversight as she responded. We're defending our colonies, Ambassador, and those of other targeted species, with technology you claimed not to possess, Xalvor accused, with capabilities you concealed from the Conclave. Much like the Krell threat you claimed was managed, Elena replied evenly. It seems we've all kept secrets. The bridge shook as the shadow strike absorbed a glancing hit from a Krell energy weapon that had finally managed to target them. Disengage immediately, Xalvor demanded. Conclave forces will handle this incursion. They're already here, Elena asked, knowing the answer. The ambassador's crystalline features flickered, the Vesperi equivalent of hesitation. They are being mobilized. How long until they arrive? Hours? Days? The colonies don't have that much time. Elena's voice hardened. We're not standing down, Ambassador. You can join us or watch from a distance, but humanity is done waiting for permission to survive. Without waiting for a response, she cut the transmission. That was satisfying, Marcus remarked. Elena allowed herself a brief smile before returning to the battle. Status on the harvester ship. Multiple breaches, systems failing, Lynn replied. But it's still operational, and now it's targeting the colony directly. Energy buildup suggests they're preparing to fire their main weapon, some kind of plasma-based bombardment system. Elena studied the tactical display. They're shifting to a scorched earth approach. If they can't harvest, they'll destroy. She made her decision quickly. All Proxima ships converge on the harvester. Thunderbolt strike pattern Omega. Commander, Marcus cautioned, Omega pattern will place our ships within the blast radius if that harvester detonates. I'm aware, Captain. Her eyes remained fixed on the display. Execute the order. The 5 remaining Ghost Fleet ships in the Proxima system reappeared in a tight formation around the massive Krell harvester. Their Thunderbolt weapons fired simultaneously, this time not targeting the harvester's hull, but specific points identified by the Shadow Strike's advanced scanning systems, power nodes, control clusters, organic nerve centers. The harvester convulsed as precision strikes severed its critical systems. The energy building in its main weapon destabilized, cascading back through damaged conduits. Secondary explosions bloomed across its surface. All ships, emergency jump, Elena ordered. 4 of the Ghost Fleet vessels vanished instantly. The 5th, the EFS Vigilant, remained, its engines flaring as it struggled to activate its displacement drive. The Vigilant's quantum field is destabilized, Lynn reported tensely. They can't jump. Elena's knuckles whitened on the command chair. Get them out of there. Conventional engines, escape velocity, anything. On the display, the Vigilant's thrusters burned at maximum as the ship pulled away from the dying harvester. It had gained perhaps half the necessary distance when the Krell vessel detonated in a blinding flash of energy. The shockwave caught the human ship, tumbling it end over end as its shields flared and failed. Vigilant reporting multiple systems failure. Communications relayed. Life support holding. Casualties significant. Elena took a deep breath. Send recovery teams. Priority extraction. Marquez approached her chair, voice low. Commander, we have similar situations developing in 3 other systems. The Krell are shifting to self-destruct protocols rather than retreating. They're sending a message, Elena replied grimly, making the cost of resistance clear. The tactical display updated again, showing new Krell reinforcements arriving in the Drusen and Elkari systems. The coordinated attack was larger than anyone had anticipated, not just raids, but a full invasion front. They're concentrating forces at Proxima Station, Lynn reported. The station's defenses won't hold against that many ships. Proxima Station was the heart of human presence in the system, a massive habitat supporting over 20,000 colonists and the primary evacuation point for the planet below. If it fell, the death toll would be catastrophic. Redirect all available ships to Proxima Station, Elena ordered. We make our stand there. As the Ghost Fleet regrouped for a desperate defense of the station, a new alert sounded. Multiple slip space ruptures, Lynn announced, then paused in surprise. Commander, they're not Krell signatures. The display showed dozens of new vessels entering the system. Leading them was an unmistakable sleek black craft that seemed to swallow light, a Vesperi war cruiser, followed by ships bearing the markings of other Conclave species. The Conclave fleet, Marcus said, unable to keep surprise from his voice. They actually came. A transmission came through, and Ambassador Xalvor's face appeared once more on the command screen. Commander Reyes, the Vesperi said, voice modulated to Project Calm Authority. The Conclave has analyzed the situation and determined intervention is necessary. Your forces will stand down and allow us to resolve this conflict. Elena looked at the tactical display, noting how the Conclave ships were positioning themselves, not at the critical defense points, but in a formation that would give them the best observation of both human and Krell tactics. They're not here to help, she realized aloud. They're here to watch and learn. Commander, Marquez questioned. They want to see our technologies in action, Elena explained. And they want to study the Krell response. We're all test subjects in their assessment. She opened a channel to the Vesperi flagship. Ambassador, we welcome Conclave assistance in defending Proxima Station and evacuating civilians. However, Ghost Fleet will maintain operational control of this defense action. The ambassador's crystalline features arranged themselves into what Elena recognized as indignation. Unacceptable. Conclave protocols clearly state 17,000 civilians, Elena interrupted. That's how many people are on that station. While you were drafting protocols, we were fighting. We'll coordinate, but we're not standing down. Without waiting for a response, she turned to Marquez. New plan. If they want to observe, let's give them something worth watching. The battle for Proxima Station became the stuff of legend. The Ghost Fleet, now revealed to the galaxy, demonstrated capabilities that shocked even their Conclave observers. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, striking from impossible angles and disappearing before retaliation. The Thunderbolt weapon system proved devastatingly effective against Krell defenses, while quantum displacement technology rendered conventional targeting systems nearly useless. But it was the final phase of the battle that truly stunned the watching galaxy. As the Krell committed their reserves, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the Harvesters, Alina ordered the most daring maneuver yet. All ships execute Operation Sunforge. The remaining 12 Ghost Fleet vessels formed a precise geometric pattern around the Krell dreadnought. Instead of firing their weapons, they activated a different system altogether, one that had been theoretical until that moment. Quantum resonance fields extended from each ship, interlocking and amplifying. The space around the dreadnought began to warp visibly, light bending as fundamental forces were manipulated on a scale never before attempted. Resonance field at 80%, Lynn reported, her voice tense. Field stability holding. On the Vesperi flagship, alarms were sounding as their sensors struggled to comprehend what the human vessels were doing. Space itself was being reshaped, the fabric of reality temporarily rewritten by technology they had believed to be centuries beyond human capability. The Krell dreadnought, sensing the danger too late, attempted to fire its main weapons. The energy dissipated harmlessly into the distorted space surrounding it. Resonance field at maximum, Lynn announced. Collapse sequence initiated. The quantum field contracted suddenly, violently. The Krell dreadnought shuddered, its massive hull compressing as space itself constricted around it. There was no explosion, no dramatic blast, just a silent, inexorable compression as the massive vessel was folded into an ever smaller volume of space. When the field finally dissipated, what remained of the dreadnought was a dense mass no larger than a small shuttle, fundamental particles compressed beyond recognition. Silence fell across all communication channels as the implications became clear. The humans had not just developed advanced weapons. They had mastered principles of physics that the older species had deemed theoretical at best, impossible at worst. In the aftermath, as evacuation ships rescued colonists and emergency teams assessed damage, Alina found herself once again facing Ambassador Xalvor, this time in person aboard Proxima Station. The Vesperi moved with careful precision, crystalline form catching the light as they approached. For once, there was no condescension in their posture. The Conclave has reassessed its position on several matters, the ambassador began, including Earth's petition for full membership in the Defense Alliance. Alina maintained a neutral expression. I'm glad to hear it. Your species concealed significant technological advances, Xalvor continued, a note of accusation in their translated voice. Developments that could have benefited the entire galactic community. Much as the Conclave concealed the true Krell threat from newer species, Alina countered. We adapted to the reality we were presented with. When dismissed as primitive, we used that perception as cover for innovation. The Vesperi's crystalline features shifted in what might have been discomfort. The Krell have retreated from all contested systems, but analysis suggests they will return with new strategies. They are adaptable. So are we, Alina replied simply. Xalvor studied her for a moment. The Conclave would propose a formal alliance, a true exchange of knowledge and technologies. Your quantum displacement and resonance field technologies could revolutionize our defensive capabilities. And what would humanity receive in return? Alina asked. Full membership, access to Conclave archives, technological exchange with all member species. The ambassador paused. And respect. You have earned that, at minimum. Alina thought of the casualties, the destroyed colonies, the years of dismissal and condescension. Respect isn't given as a reward, Ambassador. It's the foundation of any meaningful relationship, a human concept. Xalvor observed. Perhaps one worth adopting, Alina suggested. Earth will consider your proposal, but any alliance must be one of equals, not patrons and clients. As the ambassador departed, Captain Marquez joined Elena at the viewport overlooking the battered but surviving station and the ghost fleet ships patrolling beyond. "They're actually afraid of us now," he remarked. Elena shook her head. "Fear isn't the goal. Understanding is." They laughed at humanity because they never bothered to understand us. Our history, our adaptability, our determination. She watched as repair drones swarmed around damaged sections of the station, human ingenuity once again rebuilding from adversity. "They're not laughing anymore," Mark said. "No," Elena agreed. "Now they're listening. And that's a start." Beyond the station, Earth ships continued their vigilant patrol, no longer hidden, no longer dismissed, but revealed as the protectors they had always been designed to be. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, not as supplicants, but as innovators and defenders. The stars had witnessed the emergence of a new power, one forged in silence and revealed in fire.